800th episode fast approaches, and so does our Kickstarter here. John actually got me to do a Kickstarter gig, a piece of a Kickstarter gig with him. So the Kickstarter project, for those people wondering, I'm just going to put that up right now because I'm a trained professional and stuff like that. Because, trained professional, podcaster, it seems to go hand in hand, right, John?
Yeah, 800 episodes. I mean,
yeah,
that's a lot.
Oh yeah, I've done this a few times.
Two,
yeah,
three
so
times.
how's it? Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, I appreciate what you just did for me too. So, man, so when you do a campaign, is it always like pins and needles for you when you're always in the middle of one of these?
Yeah, it's different with each one. I think last year we had a pretty rough one, and to be honest with you, that's kind of almost been a good thing for these this year. It's just kind of like, you know what, we made it through, we survived. Yeah, we're a few dollars in our pocket shorter right now, but we'll recollect ourselves and get back out there, and then you have a successful one, and then you feel a little better. So, there's certainly more tragic things in the world than not meeting your financial goals in comics. So I try to always kind of keep that perspective.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you care, right? That's the one thing about this is you absolutely wonderfully care. So I actually feel like I should come up with a really lame excuse, and I need to come up with one. A black and white glitter dragon is a little harder than it sounds. A little hard. I think I figured out a way to do it, I think. So what I'm doing is I'm going to, like, when I get paid, like, this is, so I got currently 3 different freelancing gigs going on, playing cards, which is legit, folks. It is a legit gig I have right now. I'm doing marketing content for a client.
Sure.
And I'm doing some marketing giveaway stuff for another client right now. That's just my current freelance plate. Pardon me. And so I finally get paid for all this stuff this week. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually expanding my pencil set. So I'm going to try and different shades of Glitter Dragon. I will finally have something up so you can have it. I hope you enjoyed the story. I haven't heard too much back, but I haven't heard. I hope you've enjoyed the story at least, right? So.
Well, I will tell you, I don't have a ton of experience editing prose, so hopefully, I felt like it was really good. I think you nailed it. You kind of pitched me the 2 or 3. Well, for those who are watching, Josh and I met through his podcast. We met just not long ago. Somebody posted they were on his show, or I caught it somewhere. You know how these things go in our community. It's small, but at the same time, you don't always bump into each other.
No.
On the interweb. So, Josh invited me on. We were on a show, and he was talking about how he wanted to write. And you know what? I am the kind of publisher, I like to see people's first works. I like to help people get their first work out there. And he kind of pitched me after the show. He said, I got an idea. I came up with it. Here it is. And I was like, how can I pass on this idea? And no, you did a great job on a short deadline. And again, I don't have a ton of editing prose experience. I have to be honest with that. But I felt like you did really well. It's a fun story. It's unique. It fits the theme of the book.
Yeah, it is as silly as I could possibly make it. Right. So actually what I'm going to be doing, I won't do a complete version of the beautiful thing about an altered magic card is I can alter it just enough so you never get sued by copyright stuff. So I'm going to paint over stuff like casting costs. I'm still going to give it some statistics and stuff like that. Sure. Right. But yeah, basically I'm going to be playing with the eyes a little bit because he's not happy. He's covered in glitter. In fact, it's probably my favorite first line I've ever written. Right? It was the glitter that finally set him off. It was just like that. That's just I thought it was just the perfect tone for the story. Yeah, my first credited illustration will be for this book. Not my first story, but my first illustration will be credited for this book. So it's going to that's kind of a really surreal thing for me. So thank you, Bud, for giving me this opportunity. And
well, thank you for taking it. And again, if it is too much, we certainly don't want to stress people out for what we're offering as far as compensation. So you know what, if you want somebody else to fill in, let me know. We can make it happen.
Oh no, I totally want to do this. It's like I totally want to do this. It's one of those situations where you want to push yourself, right? So, but that all said, I mean, it's not just Magic the Gathering. You're doing homages to. You're doing homages to the town of Springfield. So, and that in itself is always an interesting one because So what's your favorite era of The Simpsons?
I'm one of those old men who kind of stopped watching after season 15, maybe hung around a little bit longer than that. But yeah, the first, 12 or 13 seasons is my favorite era. I would say probably the most that I watch is seasons 5, 6, and 7-ish. You bounce around, right? There's great
No,
episodes.
those are the good ones. Like I said, we were talking online. The monorail is still my all-time favorite episode. It is the silliest thing ever. But there's some good ones from that era, right? There's Homer skipping church. There's
Great one.
Sideshow Bob for Mayor is also really fun, just because come on, the Matlock Expressway, that is just freaking funny, right? Yeah. How do you get this through? We'll call it the Matlock Expressway. Really? That's what's gonna take? Yep. Yeah, that's what it takes. But yeah, no, that's so I obviously I think from just the two, I feel The Simpsons is probably the denser of the two books. So what's your favorite story in there? Or is that like pulling teeth?
Boy, that would be hard to say. I really feel like somebody also we brought in very late into this project, like yourself on the stack too. Our Magic the Gathering, tribute with Up and Let's Go, the comics tribute to the comics of Springfield. We brought in Dalton Vaughn very late. He's done some work for Mad Magazine and some other publishers. He was introduced to me by a friend, and he said he loves The Simpsons. I told him the idea. He wants to do it, and he and I really similar to talking to you, gave him like a 3 or 4 sentence paragraph. This is what this character is going to do. I let him pick the character. I said, well, who do you want to do? And then I said, this is my idea. It's kind of an homage to Sin City. And it's not just because I wrote it. It's just because I gave him this very basic idea, and Dalton just killed it. I wouldn't say any are my favorite, but I think that's one that I will remember for a long time. Just because I do feel like in comics especially, people don't embrace the immediacy of it. Comics take a long time to make sometimes. But comics can also be, you know what? We came up with this idea. I'm going to jam these pages out, and I'm going to give it to you in a week or a day. I mean, people do 24-hour comics, right? Where they make the complete thing beginning to end. And I think we don't embrace that enough. So this was just such a fun experiment for me. And I think that's the one I'll probably remember the most from this book.
Well, I think sometimes comics are just all about the fun. That's it. That's all they're not trying to be anything more or anything less. Some of my favorite runs were just fun. I don't know if you're aware of Bill Maus's book Naira X. It's a fun book. It doesn't try to be anything more than what it is. Fun book, a little cheesecake, but it's fun. Cool. That's all I want sometimes, right? Yeah. You don't. Epic stories are cool, and by the way, anyone that takes serious time putting together a book, massive props. You deserve all the props in the world,
for sure.
But at the same time, at the absolute same time, sometimes you just want something really, really freaking silly, like a unicorn fighting rainbows, or comics have this wonderful ability to be silly, right? You don't have to take yourself so seriously, and
there's very few artistic mediums that can really do that, right? You can't do that. Yeah. I mean, you could do it in prose page to page, but TV shows aren't going to get made if they're, 1 minute they're, I don't know, at a baseball game and the next minute they're underwater, whatever. Like I always think of the amazing artist and writer Ryan Brown from Chicago.
Okay.
He does the book God Hates Astronauts. He also did a 24-hour comic called Blast Furnace, which is very much, you don't know what's going to happen. Like anything could happen. The characters could be horribly altered. They could be dead. Whatever comes to his mind, he was putting on those pages, and it is just, to me, that's a great example of what we're talking about. Yes, he put a lot of love and care into it. In most of the pages, you can see he's an amazing artistic talent. But then some pages you can see he was really jamming it out and said, "This is what you're getting," and that's so cool. Comics is special for that. And again, even our Magic zine that we're doing, I wanted people to just put it down on the page. You don't always have to think about, am I the greatest? Am I saying something so powerful here? No, just put something out there. Put what your heart, tells you to do.
If I ever get to do another one, I'm going to do a Channel Fireball combo. Like the original Channel Fireball combo. And for all those old school Magic players, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? But I'm going to forget the actual kill spell. That'll be the story. It'll be short. And I looks, oh, I have all this mana and nothing to do with it, because we've all made that mistake at one point playing the game. We have this really cool idea. We get it all going. And it's like, oopsies.
I think I milled my combo piece, or I think I boarded out my. I'm storming off, storm count's like 25, and I'm like, I have no way to win.
Yeah, it's like, I have no way to win. So I'm just going to scoop, and thank you very much, right? Because that happens all the time. So
The shame scoop. There's nothing wrong with the shame scoop.
No, there's no. Actually,
we'll call the next volume of this. We'll call it shame scoop.
The shame scoop. Yeah, totally. Actually, do you know what? Actually, my least favorite thing, when you do a shame scoop on purpose and someone stops you, that's annoying.
It's like, no, I'm scooping.
It's like, well, I sometimes you just do, like, how you do sometimes combos just for fun, right? Just some random combo for fun, and it's not designed to win. It's just designed to screw the game up. Something like a Warp World, for example, right? And then they just stop you. And you're like, why? I'm not winning with this. What are you doing this for? Right? Those are like,
it can go both ways. Like, sometimes you gotta let the other player have their fun and say, okay, do your thing.
Exactly. I mean, especially if they're not winning. If they're not going to win, just let them go. Right? Just let them go. It's part of the fun of the game, right? And that's the whole point. But that'll be the next one. I'll do like some kind of crazy suicide combo thing, and like, oops, maybe do it like from a Planswalker perspective. So I have two all powerful Planswalkers going, and all of a sudden one just runs out of gas. It's like, can I get a mulligan? But anyways, no, but that's the thing. Like, comics can be fun, and they should be fun. I have soft spot for just comics that go out of their way to be fun comics. I think the have you ever read Axe Cop?
Oh yeah, I have the 3. I don't remember how many volumes it is, but I have at least 3 here. I also have a T-shirt that I've grown out of. If anybody out there wants it, I'll mail it. Got it a couple sizes too small. It's him on Wexler, the dinosaur.
No, my God,
it's one of the best shirts, but I bought it a little slim.
No, it's all good. No, that comic's amazing. Like, I like it. You'll never get necessarily the great. Like, you don't get the greatest story, but you get the most fun. It's just a world-class artist and a 10-year-old. And it's
that's
awesome.
What it is. I think he was 5 when it started.
Yeah.
Just you talk about fun. Like, kids don't think minute to minute. They just whatever the next moment is. And this guy, what a fun concept. And of course, like you said, with his world-class art, it's like, wow, only in comics will we get this, where it's like the most insane story, but the most amazing art at the same time. That's super fun.
It's why it works. It's a family bonding book too. And I think that's why he did the book. It was for I think it was his little brother. I could be wrong, right?
Yeah, it sounds like he had parents who also had children later in life, so he was in his mid-20s or so, and they had another kid, and he loved him, and like you said, he just would babysit or watch him and said, man, this kid comes up with the craziest stuff, and that's fun. Like, embrace that. And then he also made a huge success out of it, which is also fun.
And that kid's already done something really cool that makes me feel a little inadequate. I'm not gonna lie, but like in the best possible way.
Ethan and Malachi Nicole, for those who aren't familiar, Axe Cop is one of the best.
No, it's like one of the like my favorite. Like, I'm at that point in my adult life, I can appreciate a really simple, fun story for what it is. Unbeatable Squirrel Girls, and it fits in that category for me too. It's just like, yes, I am 12. Screw it. It's just like it's one of those books where you just look at it and go, this is just ridiculous fun. Another book like Impulse, for example, Mark Waid's Impulse is a similar kind of vein. Spy Boy by Peter David's a similar kind of vein. It's like, you just want good, fun books. I wish there were more of them out there, to be perfectly honest with you. And there seems to be more of them on Kickstarter.
Yeah, Kickstarter's a great place for that. People, they know, a publisher's probably not going to be able to take a chance on some of these books, and people are really finding a way to get them out there into the world. There's so many amazing indie comics that fit in those categories.
Yeah, so I'm asking you. Like I said, we've talked about this in the past. You're kind of like doing your own part-time thing, but it's growing. It's neat. You've got a neat little pocket universe that's slowly growing. do you want to, like, would down the road, are you comfortable just being your own publisher at this point? Is that all you want, or do you want to go for still like some of the more traditionally published things in comics at this point?
I definitely I would like to have more publishers credits. I have one publishing credit as a letterer, and hopefully I had another one recently picked up that I'm lettering. So that's cool. But I'd like to have, a writing credit to my name at one of the big 10 publishers or whatever. That's still a goal of mine, and that is kind of part of why I came back with Part-Time Comics. I did pitch a lot of these books that are starting to come out. Obviously not the Simpsons Magic one, but I did pitch, for a good year and a half, 2 years, trying to reach that goal, and it just hasn't happened. So, we went back to self-publishing, but I'm definitely comfortable with self-publishing. It's something like I think we talked about last time I was on, Drumsticks of Doom.
Yes.
I pitched that really hard to anybody who had open submissions, anybody I could talk to, asked friends, hey, can you put in a word here? Old, relationships that I made, kind of dusted them off and said, hey, are you still taking submissions? But in the end, I feel like it was probably meant to be self-published. There's a lot in the book that changed through Dan and I in the last, I think he started the art. It'll be 2 years ago this July. And it's finally coming out this July. And through that process, the story has changed so much. And just being your own boss, I think has made the story better. I think if somebody had picked it up, they would have told me, some things couldn't be in it and some things could. And, maybe it would have been a different story. I don't want to say worse, but I feel like it's where it needs to be.
And you sound very happy with it. And I can't, like, I'm probably at some point going to go on your back and go, so this book by John seems good. Take my money, yeah.
If we could get On the Stack funded, I'll send you a free copy with your.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
That'll be your payment.
Yeah, exactly. Bribing me with comics, it's not a bad way to go. It's actually, so there's a comic shop I got, like my comic shop here. It's like, it always terrified me to go apply for a job there because my big terrifying thing was I would never have money. Yeah, so I get paid. I was just like, just put it back in the store. It's like, what happened?
Well, people have told me that about working at magic shops, and I'm like, no, I couldn't do it. I'd be just buying packs. I'd be broke.
Oh no! So magic shops would be worse because what I would be doing? I'd be going for like the really cool cards. So the oldest card I actually once upon a time actually owned a Library of Alexandria.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
That's a beautiful card. I understand why it never got reprinted. It's
ridiculous.
For sure. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's why the saying, the famous saying in Magic, as Richard Garfield intended, right? People say all the time, when something crazy happens in Magic, I don't think people understand. Richard Garfield made Black Lotus. Richard Garfield made Library of Alexandria. Richard Garfield made the Moxen. He wanted broken cards. Like, he did not intend for the game to get where it is. He wanted the games to be, crazy and explosive.
Have you ever seen any of the early playtest cards?
Yes.
They're even more busted than the actual things that got released.
He ratcheted it down, but once the game got successful right off the bat, he made a lot of changes in those first few years. But again, when you say that, Richard Garfield, as a game designer that early on he was making some busted stuff. He made the card Ancestral Recall, the most busted card.
Yeah, no, that card, I have actually played with it. I have never lost playing that card, ever. Yeah, it's nuts. It is nuts.
Now, I thankfully, I came after that era, so when I sold and got rid of most of my Magic cards, I don't have any stories like that. People say, "Oh, I had a Black Lotus and I traded it for Shivan Dragon." I don't have any stories like that.
I never did that. So my favorite two cards of all time. Here's another busted card. You'll know it when you hear it. Tolarian Academy.
Oh,
wow! Is that card never should have been made?
Gaia's Cradle busted.
Oh yeah, no, Gaia's Cradle. I have a buddy. He has an old school Commander Elf deck. Gaia's Cradle is in there. By the way, you know what's beautiful about that, though? I busted him up with a top deck Bonfire of the Damned. It's beautiful. All his elves. Screw that cradle.
Now you make no man.
Yeah, exactly. He looked at me. He just looked at me and just said, why did you do that? And I'm like, because you had elves. I mean, you had all like the really busted elves, too. So I felt really good to burn that field. It really, really did.
Yeah.
Right.
Wasteland your cradle. Yeah, that feels good.
Oh, Wasteland, another evil card. I think my favorite. I think my favorite card from that era is Wheel of Fortune. That card, it's busted, but it's not as broken as everything we just mentioned. Right. So,
It's very powerful, but yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
powerful but fun. It's a
Yeah.
fun card.
It's like, let's all draw 7 cards. Yay.
Yeah, let's just all do it. I mean, red never should have that ability, but I mean, red decks usually win when they draw 7 cards, but
Right.
still, right?
Even though I've got priority and I've probably got unlimited mana or some other thing, but yeah, that's a fun one.
Yes. Oh no, it's a fun card. Like I look at the game how it's evolved today. I kind of hate that I kind of love and hate that they made Planswalkers. I love and hate them because they're complex cards, and I love that the idea that they're interactive on the board. But I miss some of those old spells. Like I miss some of those really really cool old spells, and now those spells are just printed on those Planswalkers. So it's like,
yeah.
I miss. Give me Brainstorm. Come on.
Brainstorm, another one. Yeah. It depends, though. Yeah, amongst the greatest cards of all time, sure, it's not that powerful, but yeah, you put in like standard now, and it's like the most played card.
Oh, no.
Look at 3 cards; it's pretty good.
yeah. No, Brainstorm never should be reprinted. Like there are lots of cards that never should be reprinted. Dark Ritual should never be reprinted. I'd like first turn Hypnotic Spectre.
That was my favorite early on.
Yeah.
Dark Ritual, hippie, go.
Yeah, Dark Ritual hippie. It made everybody just go like this.
I thought that was the most powerful thing, and then other people are playing, and then I learned what real powerful magic is. But yeah, Dark Ritual, insane. 3 magic, 3 mana for 1.
Again, looking at cards, it never should be in black. That one, it never should be there. But I mean, if you look at the modern game, I'm a commander guy now. Like I don't think I'll never do standard again. I'll just play commander because commander it still feels like I can have fun and I'm not spending a zillion dollars. Yeah. But yeah, I could never work at a magic shop because I'd be like going for all the really. It's like going to a comic shop and looking at the really cool old school runs. It's like this is cool. This is cool. What money? I don't need money. Apparently, I just don't need it. I'll figure out food in another week. Somehow, some way. Right. Yeah. But it is what it is. So you got this one going for another 2 weeks, right? And so you got this one going for another 2 weeks. So are you getting another campaign shortly afterwards? Or are you going to take a little break from them? Like, what's kind of the plan for you for the rest of the year?
Well, for better or worse, Drumsticks of Doom ran a little bit late to start the year, and this one too ended up being backed up. I mean, deadlines are what they are, when you're self-publishing, but I still feel like I want to stick to a schedule. I'd like to do a relaunch of Depowered, which did not do so well last year. I'd like to do the second issue of Drumsticks of Doom. Now that by August, September, it'll be about 6 months since the last one. But it's a good problem to have. I'm having all these projects that are starting to come out after a couple years of working on them, and they're kind of piling up a little bit. So I have to find a way to pepper them in. So I'm assuming late August, September, I'll probably relaunch or launch something, but just haven't picked it just yet.
Oh no, that's totally. But I mean, that is a great problem to have. Like your part-time comic thing is slowly becoming a little bit more regular, and that's
that's the truth.
Yeah,
because when I started out, I said I was only going to I'm only going to publish the stories I have that aren't, being picked up by publishers, just so I have a place to park my stories and ideas and whatever. And then I was like, somebody brought me the idea last year of On the Stack. And then December, somebody came up with the idea, hey, you should publish, these knockoff Simpsons comics. And I cannot, I'm too stubborn. I cannot walk away from a good idea like that. I'm like, I have to do it now. So, those weren't really part of the schedule, and they've just kind of ended up being on our publishing schedule, and I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and it sounds like, well, actually, here's the other thing. Like, they're not exactly comics, are they? They're more like magazines or. So is that different for you? Like, does that format, is that does that feel like a different thing, or is it still feel very comic-y?
Well, the Simpsons one definitely, is comics, but it's it's a larger size. It's a lot of different stories. It's working with some legality issues, so that's different. I honestly don't think I would have done the On the Stack scene. I was approached by the cover artist Tim Gadke late last year, and he said, "Hey, you make comics, I make comics. Let's make a magic comic. We can do the stories about soldiers and goblins." And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, he ended up not being able to do it. I thought maybe he would kind of be the editorial push on it, and then I kind of sat on it for a little while. My buddy Harry, who did a story with me, and some other people I know, Tim and John O'Brien, we're going to do some comics. And I said, you know what? There's all these other people that make. I talked to you about this magic alterations and cosplay and pros and all these different people. I think that's what made me want to do it, because that is different, and that's something I actually in 10 or 12 years had never done, like a zine. Had never. I don't recall if any of my comics have ever even had like more than just like a preface page or something like that. I never done any prose. I've never published anything like that. And then I said, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's see how that goes. And let's see how these different art forms come together. And that was really fun. And then obviously doing the second volume, we got more of the same. I didn't end up getting a response from somebody who makes their own costumes. There was a couple other people I wanted to get involved who did some writing for Magic. That didn't come together, but I still feel like we put together a very diverse and unique book, and that is exciting and different. Again, after 12 years of publishing, it's comics. You can do tons of different things, because you're calling the shots. So that was really fun.
Yeah, and also just it's a way to keep challenging yourself, because you're like, what haven't I done? Or what would be cool to try? And going back to the common theme of it seems to be with you and a lot of stuff you do, you're having fun, man. I mean, it sounds to me like you're just enjoying everything you do.
I'm trying again, because we certainly aren't getting rich off this, right? So you got to be having fun, right? There is a pressure. There is, you want to have, some deadlines for yourself. I think that helps move projects along. But in the end, if you're not having fun, even today, I was trying to figure out a way to make the credits page for Drumsticks of Doom work. And to me, that's still fun. I still enjoy, that challenge. And, I learned a different thing about lettering, or, tweaking things in Photoshop. And that I still have enjoyment. And some of that is not having to do it full time, right? If I was doing this 50, 60 hours a week, I might be like, oh, another comic, that's the last thing I want to do.
I don't think you'd ever get to that point, but there are also, like, what happens when you're doing creativity full time, and I speak from experience, you look for shortcuts because you're a bit of a lazy fuck after a while. Right? And it's not because you're constantly going, and you're constantly trying to create work, and you're constantly trying to do things. So what you start looking for is more efficient ways of doing it. Now, sometimes that can lead to some really creative stuff. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you kind of get into around. One of the cool things about being able to go, quote unquote, part-time is this. You want to try something new. You're not worried about again, you would love financial results. I'm not saying you don't, because otherwise you wouldn't, but you have the conscience of your mind to actually do an experiment and opportunity to teach yourself something that might actually lead to something even bigger and better down the road. Like, seriously, man, Drumsticks of Doom sounds fucking awesome. Like, it really, really does. And, but I also think that everything else you've done has taught you things for that project. And for anything else that I'm not going to say more serious exactly, but I get the feeling that your own specific art, you do up the seriousness level of it because you care about it more. I'm not saying you don't care about On the Stack. I'm not saying you don't care about the Simpsons thing, but you're more of an editorial role, so you're kind of more like a manager, right? Hey, Ghost of War. How you doing, buddy?
That's my brother, Tim.
Hey, buddy. Welcome to the show. Right? But I say it like that because when you are creating something yourself, you really, really care. Because that's like you're doing everything start to finish, right? Marvel Indie, hey, Marvel Indie.
I mean, I can't argue that, because it's your name on the book. It's you. You don't have an editor or publisher to say, they wouldn't let me do that. This is you, and for your collaborators too, right? You want to do well for them. How many? If it's just 2 of you or 20 of you. I want us all to have success together. So we'll have this story together. I mean, that definitely is what drives me to keep putting out good products.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, so I've been very fortunate with my relationship, like the relationships I've had with collaborators in the past. There are a couple so Kenzie Carr, who does my Alice in Wonderland book, because I was trying to get myself figured out as a freelancer, has given me some huge reprieves. And I'm actually to the point where it's like, I don't deserve you. And I mean that in like the best possible way. Right. And I say it like that because hello, Zombie Ruxpin. Welcome to the show. But I say it like that because your collaborators definitely add something to the book. And it's the epitome, I think, of a great book are the people you work with. And if they trust you and you're willing to do it, I mean, you almost feel like you have to go that extra mile for them.
I feel like that, especially Zombie Ruxpin in the chat is in the book with us. Josh, you won't know this. This is my longtime friend, Rich. He's in the book, and he's somebody. I think I published his only other comics work besides a self-published book he did with another friend of ours in an anthology. I had one extra page, and I said, Rich, I really need to fill this page. Can I use a drawing from you? And since then, we haven't really worked together. Comics aren't his number one thing. But when I came up with this project, I knew he is a huge Simpsons fan. We have another buddy of ours, Kevin, who's a huge Simpsons fan. I just really wanted them in this book. And again, you publish yourself, you can do that, right? Yeah. I could say, if I was working for Dark Horse, I can't cherry pick my friend of 25 years and say, do you want to be in this book? Maybe I could. But for me, I could do that. And then now I have this thing that he and I have done together. And he and I have made music together and videos and all kinds of other things.
Oh, really?
He's always somebody that I'm always, I enjoy having him be a part of projects because that makes it all the more special for me.
So Zombie Ruxpin, I'm going to ask you a question. Then we're going to ask John. I asked him this earlier. What's your favorite Simpsons episode? I'm just curious because I'm
curious too because he and I have talked about it. I don't remember what he said.
Yeah, so that'd be kind of cool. For me, Zombie, it's the monorail. That is my all-time favorite. My second place is Sideshow Bob when he became mayor because that was Sideshow Bob is absolute best.
He's a great
yeah,
every time he's on there, like, wow, this is amazing.
No, almost. I do feel. I obviously, this is just my opinion. I do feel after his brother got introduced, there was nowhere for them to really go. Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's also my favorite. Again, this is my brother Tim. So we always talk about the softball. For me, it's neck and neck between that one and You Only Move Twice with Hank Scorpio. It's like every week.
Oh, Scorpio!
I don't know which one I like more.
That's in my top 5. Like it's totally in my top 5 because Scorpio was like, dude, seriously, Homer worked for a James Bond villain. He was good at it. Up there. Of course, it's a tough question. I mean, it's I can be tough, but I'm also tossing fun stuff. For me, it's the monorail because it's literally everything you could possibly imagine in a Simpsons episode, right?
Singing, dancing, all kinds of great jokes. Phil Hartman, he can't go wrong.
No, you really can't go wrong with that episode. But the softball is really good. I love Daryl Strawberry in that episode. It's just amazing.
So great.
So
there's a couple of buddies in the Facebook groups for the Simpsons that have gone around and gotten everybody's autograph from the episode, like picture of them in the episode or whatever. I like that. Now I shouldn't have done that. Started
that's
doing
a
that
cool
like 10 or 15 years.
That is such a cool idea. That is really such a cool idea because it was one of the silliest episodes. Although my favorite character, ironically, in there was the hypnotist. I thought that's a hell of a way to get away with all the bullshit you pulled.
You did a good job. You did a good job.
You did a good job. You did a good job. That's right.
No one can give 110%.
That one cracked me. It's like it's impossible. No one can give. It's like whoever came up with that joke was a genius. Like that. So.
And that's definitely one, watching it when I was younger, that was the first one that I always remembered. And, it had all the celebrities and stuff. But, yeah, I think that one that's why it always sticks to me at the top of the list. It's just, that was the first one I think that really hooked me on The Simpsons and wanting to rewatch them all the time.
Got no hustle, Skip. I'm afraid Marvel Indy, I'm kind of clueless on that one. So.
That's what Daryl Strawberry says when Burns is going off.
Oh, yeah.
And no hustle, Skip.
For me, my favorite scene is when he gets catcalled by Bart. Daryl,
So
and he starts tearing right after that. It's like, oh my god, it works so much. It's just like, oh my god.
Perfect.
And I can't remember. So there's a dude that fell into the hole. Ah, cool. Takes a picture. Keeps
Ozzie
going.
Smith, yeah.
That was awesome. And the guy kept pulling people out of the fire. Right? It's just like pulling everything out of the fire. I think by the time I got to the fridge, I would have said, "Fuck that! I'm out. I'm just totally out." Sorry.
My player piano. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's like just stop. Just stop. Just fucking
So
stop.
good.
Yeah, no, that episode's really good. Hank Scorpio's great. I love the Homer kill James Bond. That is still one of my favorite moments ever in The Simpsons. Bond escapes. Homer tackles him. Good job, Homer.
You get home, there's going to be another level on your house.
Yeah, that's right. And meanwhile, he goes. It's like, okay, that's what should happen in all the movies. It's like somebody. Oh no, no, that one's good. Like The Simpsons at its apex was definitely one of the best shows, and you can tell like the craft and care they took into those jokes were absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, I can say I'm a grumpy old man myself that talks to the clouds. Shut up. All right. Futurama still makes me laugh, but Simpsons doesn't really make me laugh anymore.
Yeah, I think, Futurama had 30, 35 seasons. We might be in the same boat, maybe, but
yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, but Futurama is definitely it's up there with The Simpsons. The quality is the same. The writers just hit, like you said. The Simpsons from like season 2 to season 12 were just unparalleled.
Yeah, I would say seasons through to 8, but I think 9, 10, and 11, 12 have gems. Like that's kind of how I feel. Like it wasn't funny every episode anymore after about season 8, but there were some really good ones throughout there.
For sure.
Apu and the Quickie Mart. Who needs the Quickie Mart? Da, 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 da. I mean, they don't use Apu anymore, but that was really good. Different era, different time, and that's another one for another day. And who knows? Sure. Maybe when I get good enough to draw, like actually as a homework assignment. Once upon a time, do you remember the one where the whole town gets converted into a cult?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We actually had to take notes in communications acts about all the negative messaging in that episode.
Nice.
Oh God. Here's the thing about The Simpsons, because of all the stereotypes that are in there, there's so much negative messaging in there, right? Right. But at the same time, like that episode is like, hey, I got to learn stuff watching The Simpsons or something, I guess.
There's whole courses on it now. I mean, it's been on so long dissected.
Oh, totally. It's one of those. It's one of those iconic shows. It's actually been on TV longer than just about anything, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the longest running.
Yeah.
It beat Dark Shadow. Was that name? What's the last one? I forgot what the longest running was, but
yeah,
and it's still going.
Yeah,
new episodes right now. 27 episodes a year.
Oh, good God. Yeah, no mas. No mas.
Yeah, like I said, there's definitely. I probably watched up to like season 17 regularly, and then so it's weird to say that there's probably as many, not as great seasons as there was truly great, and that's kind of a weird thing. But I still think it has value, and hopefully there are people who really enjoy it.
Well, no, there are like there's a core audience that will always enjoy that show, right? There always will be, because it's such an iconic piece, but it's not for everybody anymore. And I think that's okay too. Like the one thing I can say about it, doesn't matter what kind of property you make, whatever intellectual property you make, there's going to be its time in the sun, whatever that is, and then it'll go away for a while. This is another cartoon, DuckTales. I loved DuckTales as a kid, right? Right, it was an awesome show, right? But then it disappeared, and then it came back brand freaking new, right? It's a different animal, a different show than what it was, but it's still kind of my show. But that property had demand, and it came back, and I think that's true with everything. There's a time and a place for it, and then everything has its moment in the sun. I think actually the truth, the Simpsons could use some time away. It would actually make, I think, people think about it.
Now that you mention it, that might be part of its struggle, is that it never really had that time to. Futurama took some time off and they came back. Although I did hear mixed reviews about the last. I never finished the last, but
I never watched the last season myself, so I can't honestly say anything. But yeah, I mean, there's something about absence making the heart grow fonder. Even like Batman the Animated Series. That's a classic freaking cartoon.
yeah,
It still went away for a while.
Yeah.
Right. Batman has his moment in the sun, and then you gotta take him off. You gotta bring him. Then you bring him back, and people think he's awesome again.
Yeah, and some of that is just a property right. You say what you need to say with it, and how many times can you keep going back to that? Well, that might be an issue with comics in general, right? Because they don't, right? Spider-Man's not taking any months off anytime soon, and they keep, issue 1000 is coming up or something. That might be part of the issue.
Well, but here, I think this is the thing about this is the difference between comics and I think than television show. You do get the opportunity to have a different voice with a comic, though. Like, for example, there's I think Nick Spencer's doing Spider-Man right now.
Yeah,
it's Nick Spencer right now. There's Jay.
Or no, is it? Yeah, it's Spencer and Romita Jr. Right?
Yeah, and then it's Dan Slott did a huge run, and J. Michael Straczynski did a huge run. Right? You have these different writers that come in and say what they're going to say about Spider-Man. So in one sense, I think this is the difference between them and, say, the television is you have these big iconic creatives say their piece on these giant properties, and then they fail, right? Most of the time it's good. I'm not going to say it's good every time when they walk away. Like, Spider-Man did have the Clone Saga and One More Day, and neither of those were really good. No. But there was those moments, right? I mean, then there's Peter David's run with the Hulk versus Al Ewing's run with the Immortal Hulk, which, by the way, it was such a fucking cool book.
I heard that's amazing. See, I'm not the hugest Hulk fan, but I do kind of cherry pick when people tell me there's like an epic story. I think I got to get that one.
No, Immortal Hulk, dude, they turned Hulk into an EC Comics monster. It's fucking awesome. Like, it's like, no. Al Ewing took like the Hulk sensibilities with Peter David's run in terms of what Peter David did with him, but he made him an old school EC Comics monster.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I gotta get that.
But yeah, it's so like I was blown away how good that was. Like it's so good.
Just came out, I think.
Yeah, the trades. I mean, the trades are there. The first 2 years are awesome. The third year, fourth year, it slows down a little bit, but the first 2 years are fucking unreally good.
I didn't realize he wrote it that long. Wow.
Yeah, no, he wrote about 50 issues. Al Ewing is a very actually, I think he's honestly a little underrated still. I remember back my first Al Ewing book was Jennifer Blood, like right after Garth Ennis finished that run.
Wow,
it was good.
I didn't know he wrote that.
Yeah, he wrote that. That was his first actual like break, and it was really good. I mean, he turned her into a complete psycho in like 6 issues, but it was still really good. Right? He's a really and then Immortal Hulk, man, is just amazing. Like I will never say like bad things about it. It's not the Peter David run overall is better, but if you love an old school monster comic, that comic was phenomenal. I hear like so
yeah, but you're right. There people have comics is a little different. TV though, I mean, they do go through other eras too. There's been tons of writing teams.
I think. Simpsons. Do you know who I think does it the smartest? Honestly, Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, they bring in whole new teams. Every so often.
Yeah. I think that's the right way to do it.
They don't do as much, right? They don't do huge seasons. They do small. Stick around for a couple of years, move on.
Because the concept of the Simpsons, the concept of Batman, the concept of Spider-Man, these concepts are timeless. But I don't necessarily want, and I think the thing about the Simpsons is it's still the same. It's not the same writers that started it for sure, but you still have the same creatives kind of just doing like the same networks, the same engine, and it would do well that you take the parts out, take the people and replace them with something a little different, and let it be a different thing for a little while. Yeah. I mean, say what you will. Do you know what I think saved Batman? Ironically enough, the Adam West stuff, because it's different. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hold up today, but people still look at that kind of fondly. But it made the darker stuff feel a lot more refreshing because you had
That's a good
that,
point.
you had that silly Bat2C and Batman and Robin and all that silly stuff. It worked for its time, and you could tell, like you look. Well, yes,
It's Batman even danced the Bat2C.
oh yeah, totally. But the thing is, right? You look back on that stuff. Part of the reason it still works a little bit is you could tell Adam West, Burt Ward, and all those villains, all those really, some of those actors that played those villains are actually top-notch actors.
Mhm.
This was like their regular paycheck kind of deal. This is like, hey, I get a good paycheck to play a Batman villain. So they all had fun. They just, screw it, we're gonna have fun. Whatever. It's not highbrow. Going back to what we're talking about at the very beginning,
Right.
it's not always about the highbrow stuff. Sometimes you just want to have fun.
Right.
That's what they did. And you know what? I mean, it's not my favorite Batman stuff, but I'm never going to say no to someone that absolutely loves it because it's like, it was fun.
And I mean, I definitely grew up in the era of Batman being super serious, following the Dark Knight and everything. So Dark Knight Returns. So maybe that's why he never stuck with me. I was always a Spider-Man guy because he kind of had that balance. He could be very lighthearted, but there was very serious moments. And those are the kind of stories I gravitate towards,
What's your take on Ultimate Spider-Man? I'm actually very curious on this.
I loved Ultimate Spider-Man. It's one of the comics that kept me collecting during a time where I didn't really collect. I actually got the Marvel subscription for that. I kind of came on like around issue 7. I heard about it and I was like, I don't know. And my one buddy Jim was like, oh, you gotta check it out. It's really good. And I was like blown away. I loved it. There's parts I didn't like as much. They were kind of just like, Bendis's choice to move the story along or, change a character in some weird way. But overall, I thought it was really good, and I thought it should have continued on. I think they should have killed the Marvel, 616 Peter Parker and continued on. But I never really continued on with Miles in the comics. I love Into the Spider-Verse, and I read a little bit of when he transitioned, but I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to bow out of the Ultimate Universe after Peter died in that universe. But I thought that was a really, really good run.
I think
I still think I have every issue.
My favorite of that is still the Kingpin. The first Kingpin story is so good.
Yeah.
I just love how much of a monster the Kingpin is.
Yeah.
And like, if you can tell, like, Bendis is a huge Spider-Man fan reading that particular arc.
Sure.
Because
and I get why it couldn't really continue. I mean, it is just kind of it is a retelling. They had the two universes going on at the same time. I mean, it obviously a lot of the heavy lifting was done by what was previously written, so it was kind of just like, well, we already know Doc Ock, but he's going to be like this. How long can you do that for? I mean, I thought for 127 issues or whatever it ended up being, I thought they did a great job. It's one of my favorite runs.
Yeah, I think the last thing we should mention about, like, and when we talk about this, like, everything has its point in time. But you know what? The cool thing about comics or books, I mean, those runs never really have to end. You can always go back and read your favorite stuff, right? I think that's the cool thing about books in general is, okay, you know what? I'm a Green Lantern guy. This current Green Lantern run isn't for me. And to be fair, actually, I'll say it like this: I like it. I don't love it. And that's kind of where I'm at with the current run. But I still got the stuff where I read growing up with Kyle Rayner. I still have the stuff I like. I can always go back to the stuff I really love, right? And then I can come back and enjoy the new stuff, right? I think that's the cool thing about comics is there's these great, like, iconic runs that all of us love. And all of us have, like, the option of going back. I mean, yeah, there's always a demand to read the new thing. But there's comfort sometimes in, like, the old stuff too.
And I think a lot of comic fans would be happier. I mean, I try not to tell people how they would be happy, but I think at least I know I bowed out after Ultimate Spider-Man and I bowed out after Amazing Spider-Man 700. I read a little bit of the Superior Spider-Man and heard it was really good, but to me, Slott's run was really good. I had read several decent runs of Spider-Man in my years. I have every issue from 298 to 700-ish. And I said, you know what?
That's an accomplishment. Congrats, dude.
This is I've read the Spider-Man stories I want to read. Like you said, I can go back for my stories, and if I hear there's a really great one, I'll jump in there. But I feel like it made me a happier reader not to feel like I had to go every month to get some
Yeah.
of these books.
Well, no, like for me, here's where I'm at right now. So read it. Like Green Lantern's the only thing I'll do that with. Everything
Okay.
else, it has to be fun. And if it's not fun, or if I'm not really into it, if I stop feeling something for the book, I walk away, and I don't care what it is. Right?
I think you got to be able to do that. Keep your enjoyment. I have tons of buddies who just religiously collect every Marvel, every DC, or a lot of them. And you just got to be able to cut ties. It'll be there, but that collector mentality, that completist mentality really takes hold of a lot of us,
Oh, absolutely. No, I try to support my buddies. That's like that's becoming an issue for me, unfortunately. I do a lot of podcasts. There's a lot of you out there at this
Sure.
point, so I can't quite do it like
You
I
got to
did.
cut ties with us too. I like you.
Well, I gotta pick and choose. I gotta pick and choose. That's what it comes right. But I at least try everybody, right? And and some of you do like I said, you do fun stuff. Like you honestly do some really, really fun stuff. You should be very proud of what you do. Honest, like I'm not just saying that because you're paying me, but you have an incredible sense of fun in your work, and that I think goes a long way. Right now I'm enjoying Rob Multuri. I love what he's doing with Snowpaw. I love what he's doing with Nightwolf. Right, just very, very cool stuff. I'm going to be. I love Christopher S. Moron. I love his stuff. I think his stuff's incredible, right? And we all have these. And again, I have tastes I'm enjoying. Now there might come a point I might not enjoy it, but you know what? I still got all the books they did that I really, really loved.
Right.
Right. That's what matters. Like I don't need to be. I think one of the things is I don't need to be like back in my day. This book was better. Even if I really, really like enjoyed certain books more, not every book's for me. And that's okay too. Right? The more different books out there, the more different fans there are. I'd rather have as many people enjoying comics as possible than just catering to me. Right?
And when people regularly tell me I'm not enjoying, to me, in this day and age, that means you're really not putting in the effort, because every week world-class books come out. Life-changing books, and maybe not so life-changing but fun. There's a whole slew of amazing books for different reasons that come out every week. We really live in the golden age of comics, from indie all the way up to publishers. Every week there's something for everybody. There's so many comics being put out in different ways because it's easier to get comics out. It's easier to self-publish, and there's so many publishers now, and I really feel like people, if they aren't enjoying a vast majority of what they're reading, then they're really not trying. Yeah. They're going back to the same well, and they're not looking for different books.
And which is why I asked you about the publishing thing earlier, because if you look at the comic industry, it's decentralized, right? And I say that in like a great way. I love the fact that I have an allowance because I'm not mature and I have to be very careful what I put on my Kickstarters. But at the same time, I can look at what I'm doing honestly and be like, I can go find something I can enjoy every month if I want to. Now, I can't do it every month, which I think maybe in the grand scheme of things is probably a good thing. But every so often I can look at, like, I'm debating about picking up. So I'm really stoked. This next weekend, I give a contract to a friend of mine I've been wanting to work with for a very long time. So one of the books that she did the cover on is out right now, and I'm really debating just getting that cover because, again, I'm a big fan of her. Not just the book, but I'm a big fan of her. So it's just like, and that's a cool thing too. I have this opportunity not only just to get a good book, but I can support people who are really damn cool too.
For sure. It's the community where, we're a couple steps away from the really big name creators. It's comics is not a huge community, and that's kind of a cool thing too.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, how did you get Maria Wolfe to work on your comics? She's doing all these amazing covers for Marvel. And I'm like, well, I emailed her and I was like, hey, Dan and I are working on this cool comic. And she was like, that's a cool comic. Here's how much I charge. And that was it. and we worked together, and she was amazing, and she was friendly, and she was excited about the project. I didn't think she would have time. She's, got a lot of big name work, and that's really fun. I've had other interactions like that. And that's, again, you can't do that. I'm not going to call, if I work in movies, I'm not going to call Brad Pitt tomorrow and he's going to be like, yeah, I'll be in your indie, movie.
I actually see, I'm crazy enough to do that. I'd be like, you know what? Fuck it. What's the worst he can tell me? No?
Right. Oh,
right?
I definitely try it. Something like that. But yeah.
I mean, I would, again, I'm not holding my breath, right? I'm not going to but so I think one of my favorite interview gets, I don't know if you know who Spider Robinson is, right? He's a science fiction grandmaster. He's a journalist. He finished Robert Heinlein's last book. He's well known enough to get dinner at the White House. Really cool dude. So I meet him at an award ceremony, and and then I actually gave him an Aurora award, his new Aurora award print. I'm the one that actually pinned it on him, and it's okay, this is really cool. So next day, I was supposed to interview another author, and he kind of gave me the cold shoulder. So I see him checking out of the hotel, and he's looking for directions. I know where he's going, so I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. If he's gonna tell me no, I'm gonna know. So I go, hey Spider, would you like to come on my show? He gives me his phone number, his email, all that stuff, and it's just stand cool. Here's the moral where I'm getting at, folks. Never be afraid to ask, ever. The worst they can tell you is no, and honestly, that's not a terrible deal, ever.
Yeah, and pause. Maybe take a second to make sure you're doing it to the appropriate channel. Most people don't want you.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Private messages or whatever. But yeah, send them an email. I mean, I've certainly had people ignored emails or didn't answer. I shouldn't say ignored. I can't assume. Or people have commented back and said, "Yeah, I'm too busy." All the way to, oh my God, I've worked with amazing world-class artists just because I bothered to contact them in a professional way. And that's really cool.
Yeah, and also
shoot your shot. Give it a chance.
Give it a chance, and also just remember, at the end of the day, they're fans too. If it's really freaking cool, and if they can find a way to do it, they will. They absolutely will.
Absolutely.
Who have you wanted to work with that you haven't had a chance to work with yet?
Well, one that comes to mind when I first started writing Drumsticks of Doom 5, 6, 7 years ago. One of the first people I wanted to do the covers was somebody in comics who's very renowned for her love of heavy metal. The book stars a female protagonist. So I wanted Becky Cloonan to do some covers.
That's really cool. That's a cool name.
But unfortunately, yeah, her assistant, I believe, replied back several years ago and was like, yeah, she's too busy. So that that happens. That's one that comes to mind. Obviously, my all-time favorite artist who I would love to work with. I haven't really thought of a project for it, but that would be definitely a goal. Although he may be getting up there in age, is Sam Keith. I know he doesn't do as much work, but he would be my number one that I would want to work with.
You never know, right? I'll give you two. I would love to do something with Kevin Eastman. Fuck it, I don't care. Even if it's just a 3-page story, I don't care. I'd be just I got to work with Kevin Eastman. That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind working with Stan Sakai. Right? Yasagi Yojimbo, for anybody listening. Badass book. Colleen Doran, just incredibly talented person. Kaylin Smith.
Started with 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just going. Yeah, just those. Yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Kaylin Smith would be the last one, but partially because Kaylin's got this evil scowl. I kind of want to do a picture of us where she's taking my lunch money. I always joke that she's always going to take my lunch money. So
she's super nice. She did a cover for us. She's amazing.
No, she's an incredibly sweet woman, but she's got that scowl. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that scowl of hers on there? It looks intimidating, kind of, sort of, right? The eyes twinkle, but she's got this. So the first time I saw that, I was like, "Are you going to take my lunch money?" She just started laughing, right? Just because, right? That's who she is. No, she's an incredibly awesome person. So, but yeah, no, there's so many. But the thing is, you can be a fan, and that actually I think goes a long way too. Because if you're genuine with people, people tend to be genuine with you. Even the no's can be really nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it may be no for now, and then you come back together later for the right project or something. You never know.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite Becky Cloonan project? I'm curious on this one.
She did that self-produced mini comic, Wolves, I think it was called.
That's cool.
Yeah, her self-published stuff. I haven't followed her as much, to her bigger work. But yeah, that's one that I always think about when I think of her work.
For me, it's local.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot.
Yeah, that's where I first found her. Actually, was local, and it's incredible.
I totally forgot. Yeah, she did some of that.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, but my friend, I mean, we got 12 days to go. We got to figure out a way to kick some ass, get some more people to come onto the show and go, hey, come get this awesome book. So I think for now, I think we have a pretty good interview here. What do you think, good my friend?
I think we're good, and I appreciate it so much. Anybody who does listen to this before the campaign ends, June 11th, yeah, all the shares do help. I mean, anybody who thinks, you know what, me posting it to my social media where I only have 23 followers or whatever, all of it helps because everybody's outside of, the comic. My company's algorithm is different than, my aunts or my uncles or your cousin or whoever who might be listening to this. A share really helps these small publishers go a long way because a lot of our struggle these days is getting the word out on social media. The links, they get pushed down the algorithm. They want you to buy the ads. A lot of times we can't afford that. So any kind of sharing helps. If you can't afford the book, we understand that. There is tiers at every level. We have a lot of great incentives, but we understand, especially in this day and age, not everyone can afford to back every indie book, but the shares, they really do help. Talk about it, share it on any platform that you prefer, and that will go a long way into helping our book can succeed, and we appreciate it.
Yes, and we are less than $1,000 away, folks. So we're just not that far away from getting to the goal. All right. There's a story by yours truly, an illustration by yours truly, and that's coming. That's in the book. But also, I mean, this is like seriously. If you want to have some just fun stuff about pop culture, Simpsons and Magic the Gathering, this is the way to go. And I guess we should mention this before we wrap this bad boy up. Drumsticks of Doom. Is it going to be? Obviously, you've done the campaign for it already. So, does it officially drop in July?
It will officially drop in July. Dan should be finishing the final pages this week or next. I just have to letter the last few pages, get it to print, and it will be out in July, about a month earlier than we expected. So I will definitely be fulfilling our Kickstarter before, I fulfill any orders online. But it is up. Pre-order online, linktree.com/part-time comics with an X if you're looking for us. That leads to all of our social media, our store, everything like that.
I always forget, is the link tree, is it the tr.ee?
.ee, yep.
Yeah, and then /part-time comics, right?
Part-time comics with an X, no dashes or anything. And it's
I got it. Did I do it right?
That's it. And yeah, that'll lead you to all of our social media, all of our stuff. Crowdfunding's on there, and our store is on there. And again, this will be up on. It's up for pre-order now, but I got to get those awesome 257 backers or something that we had. I got to get them their books first, and then it'll be out in the world, and we'll see what people say about it. And hopefully, again, we had such a great response. Dan should be rolling into issue 2 sometime in June or July as well. So the next issue should be out pretty soon.
All right. You can go. Bye. I have some roommates trying to slip on by here. John says hi, guys. They say hi back. But no, John, I want to thank you. Obviously, so for those people not in the know, John was supposed to come by early in the week. It was unfortunately for what happened earlier in the week. I at least put a picture of it. My computer said, "Nope, it's not happening today." And
that will happen.
That will happen. So I appreciate you coming back on board to the show. So, anyways, folks, before I wrap up, I've already mentioned the Kickstarter. I'm just going to mention this. I do have advertising services. I make videos, audios, words, and pictures about projects and people. If you want information on how to do that, you can click on the link above and go do that yourselves. And once again, I'm just going to go back way up here to the beginning here. This is our Kickstarter, Part-Time Comics, the mini comics double feature. If you guys want Magic the Gathering stories and on the stack too, or if you want stories in our Springfield comics, right? These are the books. There's some really awesome covers there from some amazing people, some amazing contributors there as well. Definitely support them. And I want to thank John for coming on the show. So everybody watching, everybody listening, the show will be back on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure when exactly yet. I officially moved tomorrow. I officially settle in all my freelancing stuff tomorrow night, which is going to be fantastic. But once I'm still in, the show will be resumed its regularly scheduled program for the rest of the time as I approach episode 800. Before I go, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.